What is social media marketing? It's using any social media tool to generate interest. And when I say interest, I'm generally talking about phone calls. I'm a marketer, so I want your phone to ring. I don't want you to have great presence. I want your great presence to cause the phone to ring. So that's usually where I come from. It is still marketing. And I don't want you to forget that. Set your goals. Now, this is standard marketing stuff, basics. Set your goals, determine your strategy, which is the how, and then create your tactics, which is the what. So you have to know what your goal is, so that you can make sure that your strategy will achieve the goal. Then you start thinking about tactics that match your strategies. If you don't have strategy, lots and lots of buzzes, tactics, all these things that come at you will sound really good. But if it doesn't match the strategy, it's easy to say, we don't need it. That's not the direction we're going. Make sure you think through that whole process, and we'll help you that a bit. Don't try to become a social media expert. It changes too fast. It is a full-time job just to keep up. So becoming a social media expert is not where the value lies. Becoming a marketing expert is. So if you take that time, set those goals, determine your strategy, then keep an eye out for tactics that follow the strategy and your goals. That's how you can get there. So, what is your goal? How about better communication with patients? People, have you heard that? Social media is a great way to communicate? No? A little bit? A little bit? All right. It's going to sound terrible. If you want to have better communication with your patients, do that in your office. This is marketing. Communication in your office is a part of marketing, so get really good at that. If you want to communicate just through social media, I think you're missing the point. And that communication should be done in person. That cannot be replaced. So don't think that communication through social media will somehow replace any lack of communication in the office. That's where it needs to be best and first. If you add this, that's great, but don't make that your goal. I just want to make sure that if that was your goal, that I don't want to squash it completely, but please rethink that. That is not going to increase production. Higher level of contact with your local community, can that increase production? Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually a pretty good goal. If you are consistently putting out information about what's happening in your community, about local events, anything that's going on that you think people that are in your office will appreciate knowing, then you can become the hub. You can become the one when they see that post on Facebook, Twitter, Google, whatever it is, they actually find it useful. So they know that every once in a while you can get a little nugget that, oh, I didn't know that, that's helpful. So that's a really good place to be. Top of mind awareness. I don't know what that means. It's like a marketing buzzword. Top of mind awareness just means that when somebody thinks about whatever service you offer, your name is online. Social media can do that a couple of ways. One, by consistently pushing out a message, content, information that keeps them seeing you and getting information from you. The other is, this is more tactic. This is a cool little trick that works pretty well. If you ever do a Facebook ad, first you set your goal on what the ad is going to do for you, but as part of that goal is top-of-mind awareness. Then you put your logo, your information into the image, no call to action whatsoever. So you're not trying to get people to click on it, but it's showing up for people that you want to show up to over and over again. It doesn't cost you anything. Okay? If you want the phone to ring, if you have a really good offer, then make sure that you have some kind of image. And this was really fascinating to me. It's irrelevant what the offer is, but if you have an image of a pretty woman, it will get clicked more. Men and women, doesn't matter. Men and women will click an image of a pretty woman over anything else. So if you're going to run an ad and you want them to actually click it, use an image of a pretty woman, and then make some kind of call to action where it says, do this to get that. And they will. Again, smiling faces in color increases compliance. All right. Another possibility, attracting patients. I don't think that might be a good goal. It's tough with social media, but it can be done. And it starts by getting started with it. So that could be part of your goal. You can certainly make that goal. And it is less for a reason because I think it's one of the more important goals to set. And it is a more difficult goal. If you use different strategies and tactics to make all that happen, it really can. All right, what else? Anyone else? Is there anything that I didn't talk about that somebody thinks is a really good goal that they'd like to share? Nothing? No? Yeah? On the mobile version? Depends on what you're using. Yeah, so the question, if you didn't hear, the question was, will a Facebook ad show up on the mobile version of Facebook? The traditional version of the mobile Facebook, the answer is no. It's changing right now. Yeah. So my phone just did a big update on the Facebook app. Now I run 3 or 4 different apps on my phone just for social media, so that I can always see what's changing, what's happening, how they're laying things out, so that I can always stay up front. One of the biggest complaints of Facebook is their mobile app. Is that it's lousy. And when you look at the numbers, a third of the people on Facebook are using Facebook on their phone, and it's a lousy app. It doesn't work very well. They realize they need to fix that. So that was something that is absolutely changing. Now the question will be, will it be automatic, or will you have to say, I want to show on mobile? So that's what we're waiting to see. Any other questions? Yeah.
So in our office, we use Facebook, Twitter,
Okay.
and then I go on, I have somebody who's a content management company, who say, I have Google Plus, and I know nothing about Google Plus. Where's Google Plus?
Okay, we will absolutely cover Google Plus. The short answer, so the question is, do you need Google Plus in your mix? If you're going to be using all the social media tools, Google Plus is Google's version of social media. And it's their 3rd iteration. We will go into this. What I want to make clear is that I don't want you to think about Google Plus as a replacement for Facebook or as a competitor of Facebook. It is about search engine optimization. If you are on Google Plus, they know it. Any social connection, Google knows it. Any +1s, any activity that's going back and forth between your website and Google Plus, will seize that faster. So it will have a much higher impact on your search engine optimization. So, yes. And you can just copy. I don't expect anyone to ever go to your Google Plus page, but Google.
Do you get friends on it, or likes on it, or you don't do that?
Well, it's so you can. That's how I see it. Now, whenever I set a goal, when I work with a client, it's about getting phone to ring, and I find that it's about getting found fast and getting found everywhere. That's what I want for my clients. So be everywhere, and it's called circles. So they have their own language, their own set of little catchphrases, hashtags, and all this kind of craziness. What you need to know is take whatever you're putting on Facebook, put it on Google Plus, and it'll help. Okay? Anything else? All right. So think about your strategy now. That's the next piece of the marketing puzzle. What strategy are we going to be using? So you can start thinking about platforms. There's blogs, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, hundreds of others. You can use humor. Has anyone been told that humor is good to use in marketing? Yeah, people like to laugh. And we're an orthodontic office, and people aren't smiling. Probably should fix that. More people smile. So humor is very, very powerful as far as a strategy that you use. Authority. And when we say authority, we're talking about providing quality content, meaning you're going to answer questions that you never will have. I like to call it that there's the frequently asked questions. Right? Most websites will have some kind of a layout for your frequently asked questions. And then I always want you to talk about your should be asking questions. What are the questions that you know people should be asking, but they're not? What are those questions that if they ask you, you get a very specific answer, and everyone else in town will give them a different answer, your answer will always come back. That's a great question to ask, right? I spent half an hour figuring out what those questions are. So those are the should ask questions. Now that's information that can be pushed out through social media over and over and over again. And that's about creating authority. So when you do it that way, you want to be seen as an expert and not as a marketer. So there's absolutely value to thinking through that. Transparency. Does everyone hear that buzzword? Transparency? This has been coming around a lot. Big corporations are realizing that if they use social media to be transparent, to let people know that there's real people working at these companies, it builds their business, it elevates their brand. So transparency can be a very good strategy to use, and it just kind of opens the doors. It says, here we are, warts and all. And you just be transparent. Let them know how things are going, what's happening in the office. So lots of ways to be transparent, and it can be very effective. You can also use all of these. So you can figure how you want to distribute this, how you want to break it up, and this can all be a part of your overall strategy. Any questions about these? All make sense? Now, I want you to consider a blog as part of your strategy, part of the platform that you use. And I bring this up first because when it comes to search engine optimization, when it comes to interaction, blogs are fantastic. There are lots of platforms within that blog category that you can utilize, blogger type at Tumblr, lots and lots and lots. And remember that big image that I showed at the beginning? Half of those are blogs. And there are all these free places where you can put out content. I recommend WordPress over everything else. What you'll find too is that the vast majority of those social media sites that I showed you are built on WordPress. Now the reason that WordPress is so valuable and powerful is because of the plugins that are available. And plugin means you're like, I really wish my site did this. There's a free plugin that does it. And I just click it, upload it, and now my site's uploaded. Really nice, really nice. Now, what you don't want to do is have 40 different plugins because it will slow down your site, and speed does have an effect on search engine optimization. Small effect, but it does have some effect. So there are hundreds of plugins. So again, go back to your strategy. What are you trying to, what do you want? How do you want to be seen? How do you want all this to work? I think you kind of think through those plugins. Google still loves WordPress. I figured that I'd say about 3 years ago, WordPress was just the darling of Google, and we set up a WordPress site, we optimized it properly, we started running what we call outbound search engine optimization to it. It would show up on page 1, usually within 2 to 3 weeks. That was pretty exciting. Well, Google got smart as well, we got that good. So they slowed us down a little bit, but it still gets great search engine results. So I do want you to consider that. All right, if it's going to be a part of your system, think about whether or not you want to add it to your current site, or if you want it to be a separate domain unto its own. Now, this used to be a very easy solution for me, because if you went, let's say you're an orthodontist in Denver, and the domain name Denver Orthodontist was available, you'd buy it. You'd put up your WordPress blog, fill it with some content, and you would be on page 1 really fast. And that was what was called exact match domains. So your keyword, Denver Orthodontist, is a very valuable keyword. It gets searched hundreds of times every month. So that's a very valuable keyword. So if that was in your domain, it meant you were at the top of the search results right away. And it literally would take us just a couple of weeks. Well, Google realized that I wasn't the only one figuring this out, and there were a lot of marketers that figured it out, and they took away the value of the exact match domain. So now instead of having a huge effect, that's like a little effect. It's still a good signal to tell Google and all the search engines what your website is about, but they're looking for relevancy now. So that exact match domain, those keywords better be in the website, and it better be relevant to the domain. So that changes the landscape a little bit. I'm no longer saying, absolutely, make it a separate site. Now you can be found with your main website, and you can be found with your blog. You can take up 2, sometimes 4 positions on the search page out of 10. That's a pretty good place to be. So you become the obvious choice. You're everywhere. So that's a lot harder to do, so the value changes. So now, if you have a WordPress blog running on your current domain, it can very quickly improve the value of that domain. So the one thing that you need to know is the website that you have now, will it allow running WordPress? If the answer is yes, add WordPress, make that your blog platform, and you're done. So you make. The answer is no. You can just get another domain. You can even get your current domain with .net or .info or .biz and build it out based on that. And you can put it on another platform, build on WordPress. Post often and regularly. One of the questions I get a lot is, what am I going to be putting on this blog? Do they really want to know what's going on in the office? The answer is yes and no. There are people that do. They are voyeurs. And they're online, and they want to kind of peek through the window and see what you're about. So give them that information, give them that detail. The other is, they're looking for information. They're looking to see that you are an expert in authority. So how do you do that? Well, one of the fastest and easiest ways to do that is through what's called curation. Curation means you find great information that you think will either elevate your, maybe going back to strategy now, elevate your authority, very entertaining, or your patients or your prospective patients will find valuable and useful. Rather than rewriting it and making it yours, you comment on it, paste it into your blog, and press publish. So now we're talking about spending 10 or 15 minutes a week just commenting on information that you found valuable, and you have your week's worth of material. Or if you want to do it once, there's lots of different ways to kind of space that information out. You really can do it very, very quickly. So it's a matter of just commenting. That's called curation. Believe it or not, that has had a very big impact lately. Google has decided that what are called curation sites are very valuable. So all these other places like Huffington Post, everyone heard of Huffington Post? That's basically a curation site. They don't actually produce a whole lot. They pull in all this information and then they comment, so there you go. But it's one place to get that information. So Google is starting to react accordingly, so why not take advantage of that? Their algorithm doesn't know the difference between a news site and an orthodontic or dental site. They just know that you're passing on information and adding some value. So that can make things great. Yes?
So, are you saying that you're actually going to the site, copying and pasting it into your site, and then commenting on it? And you always know what that.
There's 2 ways to do it. Always the truth. Always let people know where you got the information and link back to it. If it's an image, then you're gonna probably copy and paste it. If it is content, you take a little snippet of it, just a little bit of it. And sometimes they'll even have embedded ones. Oh yeah, I want that on my site. So it depends on how it's set up. If you take a little bit of it, make your comment, and then give a link to it. Most of the time, and this is about 98% of the time, people will be like, hey, fantastic, thanks for sharing that. There is going to be that 2 to 3% where they get what's called a paying back, and they say, hey, somebody just put a link on their site to my information, I didn't approve it, take it down. You say, okay. Sure, and because it really adds value to them. So that's why it's maybe 2 to 3% that might get a little lucky about, like, hey, I didn't give you. The reality is, the more places your information is being shared, the more value there is to the person creating it. So everybody wins. Most people get that. Any other thing?
Just to go into a little more detail, like we have had our marketing person doing this, and I said, I just want you to find some little tidbit. Where did she find tidbits?
Yeah, so that's why the strategy is important. So you can say, okay, here's what we're looking for as far as the kind of information that we want. And these are the type of keywords that we want to constantly be looking for. You can have a list of 5 or a list of 100. Or you can start a list of 3 and just keep adding as it goes. And then you can send that person off to Google and say, yeah,
toothbrush facts, dental facts.
Exactly.
Just that.
Exactly. And you can even, and I'll give you some sites that you can actually go to that you can get to. Just go to that site, get information. The other thing is that when you're searching on Google, you put news. So across the top of Google, you'll see that little, on the search bar, there's going to be news and more and all these different options. Put news, and you'll get everything that was probably in the last 24 hours. And if your topic, the information you're looking for, doesn't have anything in the last 24 hours, it'll show you whatever they have. So it'll give you the latest. So if you're always looking for the same type of information, put news, and you won't have to waste a lot of time going through everything again. It'll just pull the most recent stuff to the top of it. All right? Anything else? Okay. All right. So don't just focus on your office promotions and offers. As a marketer, I tend to want to do that a lot, but you don't have to. So again, it goes back to the strategy. Make sure that you're following along with the strategy, and then you can push your offer, your promotion every once in a while so that it makes sense and it fits. And it's not every single time. So every once in a while it's like, oh geez, I didn't even know they offered that. Right? It's much more effective to do it that way. Google loves customizing your website. So if you have a static website and nothing ever changes on it, it is much easier for your competition to move you out of your position and get in front of you. Because they are going to try to have constantly updated websites. And what that does is it says to the search engines, come look at me, come look at me, come look at me, come look at me. Your website that's static and nothing changes on it is saying nothing. So eventually, it'll switch. So that's very valuable to make changes. If you're using a company like Sesame or Telebox, they will help you make those changes. So it's not like you're stuck. You can say, you know what, I really want to have this information on there, or I want a news page or an About Us page. And I recently found out that Sesame, you might have heard of it again, it did work there for a short time. One of the things I pushed over and over again was for them to fix their servers so that they could run WordPress. And I kept telling them they're so far behind if you don't work with WordPress. They now do. So if you have a Sesame website, get in touch. I'm not sure exactly how they do it yet. I'm still trying to get the details. But they can now run WordPress. So you can just add a blog to your site, and now you can have a constantly updated site. I haven't seen, Telebox uses what's called AFP, and it's a Windows-based server system, and they would have to kind of start from scratch. So if they're going to do that, I think they are, because they have to. They are going to be setting up new servers to run all that. So that would mean your site has to go to a new server. So it would be a little more involved. Keep asking them. And I'm asking them too. So if we're all kind of saying, hey, you really can do this, I think they will. And one thing that I have seen change just in the last 3 years is that Telebox, they kind of were letting things slow down as far as their efforts towards the dental community, and they have picked it right back up. I'm really pleased working with them because they respond really fast. They make the changes that we need. I don't get a lot of no's. I get a lot of let's try to figure it out. So I'm very happy working with them. Yes? Yes, you might have noticed I have a little camera in the back. They kind of migrate. You can thank him. He asked me to put this all together. The reason that I didn't put this online through the course system is because this changed last night. And we'll get to some of what changed last night. But I felt it wasn't fair to send this in 6 months ago knowing that half of it wasn't going to be relevant. So I will make it available. Yes. If you haven't heard of this company, it's called HubSpot. And they do a lot of research. They're a large company, and they test things constantly. So they're always looking at what they're doing and how they're doing it, and what's changing. 55% more website visitors for companies than blogs. That's significant. So it's certainly worth considering. So what's your commitment if you're going to use a blog? Every day is the best. And that's why I mentioned curation. So you're going to be able to come up with some super awesome, compelling, wonderful article every single day. No. I have teams of writers. And and we post stuff every day, and it's all that wonderful, super compelling, probably not, but we constantly have it. We have a team of writers. You don't. So curation works very well if you want to have something every day. Once per week is still really good. If you can do something every week and do a little bit of curation, great way to go. Every 2 weeks works very well. Anything less than once per month for 6 months, please don't do it. Just take it off the radar, cross it off, it's not going to be part of the strategy. Now, the reason I can say that with confidence is because when I first got started testing what would work, what didn't, I set up a little blog, put new content up, probably every month. When I started fast, I did it every week, I did it every month, I did it for 6 months, and I took over top positions on the search engines for the keywords that I was targeting, and it happened fast, and it hasn't really gone away. I haven't even thought about that blog since a minute ago. So it was a test. I wanted to see how it worked, and it worked very well. And I'm consistently seeing that as long as we get content coming and we do it over a very good 6-month period, you can go back pretty much whenever you feel like it's sort of reactivated. But if you can't commit to that, just cross it off the list. Questions, concerns, thoughts? No? Now getting to the blog frequency is why I'm suggesting that you post a lot. Again, HubSpot. What this is looking at is posting versus getting new customers based on your website. Multiple times a day, 100% of the people that would blog, 100% of the time that would blog multiple times a day, they got new customers. So you can read the data, go all the way down to even less than monthly, it's still have an effect. Now, in the dental ortho community, it's a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller. So once people start getting that you need to do this, then the ability to post less than once a month starts to drop as people are realizing they can post more, and everybody starts playing the game. So if you can commit to that, to at least once a month, you'll have a really nice effect. Action steps. What are we going to do? Determine if it's right for you. You're willing to keep it updated. And that can mean just making sure you have a team member that you can say, all right, once a week, just give you a list of what's going to go on the site. Really straightforward. It doesn't have to be a huge list. It can be very, very simple. Decide between adding to your site or creating a separate site. And today, it's no longer really a matter of which is going to have the best impact. It has changed a little bit so that you can kind of say, well, if the site host that currently holds my website can do it, let's just add it. If it can't, then we'll do a second. So the person, yeah. Depends on how technical you are. It's all actually very straightforward. If you need to create a new domain, a new website, because the company that hosts your current site cannot do WordPress, you get what's called a hosting account. And there's lots and lots of places. Host Monster is a company that we like working with because they're based out of Utah. So when you call with a question or a concern, they will answer and help you. There's lots. So talk to me if you're thinking about that. Lots of options there. And then you log into this hosting account and you click WordPress. Literally. And then it pops up. It's like that. Then you say, okay, I want it to look pretty, so you can get a free theme. There's tons of free themes. I don't recommend doing free themes simply because sometimes there's malware, there's spyware. So, you run a little risk. And I would rather, we're talking less than $20 generally for pretty much work than $20 to not worry about that. So you add your theme, make it look pretty, and away you go. But the hosting company can also manage your domain. And if you already own the domain and just want to point it, it's literally like domains, point it, and it's made it so easy to do that. Oh, any question? Anyone else? No. Okay, if you are thinking about doing this and you want a list of plugins, let me know and I'll put that in. I'm going to put all this on our website, but I'll Okay, yes, we did it. Okay. So we'll add those. There's the top 10 plugins that I find have huge impact on search engine optimization, and they feel like easier, and they don't slow down the website, and it's a really nice, clean list, and then you can kind of go from there. But I don't want you to have more than like 15 or 20 plugins. I have sites where we're running 40-something plugins, because we test them all the time, and we want to see which ones coordinate, which ones break sites and all that. It really does slow down the site, so you don't want to go so crazy. So you choose that theme, and we talked a little bit about that. I want you to consider purchasing a template. They're not very expensive. You can hire somebody to make a custom one. But it doesn't really have to be custom. We do work called semi-custom, and the reason we do that is because it's fast. We just want it to be fast and clean. Okay? So there's lots of people that can do that for you. If you want that patient driving power, make sure you keep it active. Consider outsourcing it or putting a team member on that. And then we're not talking about a full-time job here. You can do that pretty fast. So you got any questions when you start posting? Sound good? All right, haven't scared anybody away from blogs? No? All right.